Good evening and happy Thursday. Welcome to our bi-weekly Ask Me Anything live stream. My name is Richard Hébert. I'm a real estate advisor at Engel Völkers New Orleans, and I serve the greater New Orleans area. So North Shore, South Shore, and then we also have global connections. So whether you're looking here locally in Southeast Louisiana or you're looking around the world, we have wonderful people we can connect you with. So I really want to thank you for joining tonight. I'm excited to kick things back off with our bi-weekly live streams. As you may notice, we're in a different space now. So we have a new dedicated home studio. Hopefully the new setup will allow for higher quality streams, more interactive streams, and just sort of across the board a better experience. And also we'll be able to do this more often. And then, of course, a few things that I would like to shout out. This is a completely interactive live stream. So you'll see at the bottom right of your screen that we've got the comments there. This is led and driven by the viewers, the participants, you sitting at home or at the office or on the bus or wherever you are. So if you have any questions, be it about real estate, buying and selling, preparing to do those things, the process of those things, or if you're curious about lifestyle in New Orleans, what's going on in town, what's it like to live here, what are different neighborhoods like, all of that is totally fair game. You can even ask me about me. That's okay too, within reason. Don't get crazy. I don't want to have to edit this later. But I'm so excited, like I said, to be back doing these bi-weekly. And we'll have some more coffee chats pop up on weekends and other evenings throughout the week. So while we are waiting for more people to jump on board and tune in tonight, I encourage you to take a moment and follow me over on Instagram at Richard Hébert Realtor. We're also on TikTok. We'll be doing some more stuff over there. That's at Real Estate New Orleans. And, you know, of course, you're here on YouTube or Facebook. Don't forget to like this video on YouTube and take a moment to subscribe. So I think that is by and large the bulk of the self-promotion that I need to do during this. Don't hesitate to ask any questions. Sometimes I have had clients who direct texted me questions during live streams. So if that's the case, I will get to that after the live stream. I try to stay focused here, but please don't hesitate to reach out. I do have a few questions already loaded up, some FAQs that I tend to get. So while people are joining, we can go ahead and cover a variety of topics. This typically lasts about an hour. It may go longer. We can wrap it up shorter. But as long as there are questions on the table, I am more than happy to stay on here. If you're not familiar with me, I've been a real estate advisor for about 8 years now. I work on a variety of different properties. So if it's investment or residential or some commercial, I've worked with everybody at every different stage of the process on every different type of home you can just about imagine. So there's no question too big, no question too small. I just love to hear from you and see that you're here. So without further ado, let me go ahead and do some management here. We're going to take this off. Like I said, you can visit richardhebertrealtor.com. Over there, I have a ton of resources. You can view properties and you can also book your free one-on-one consultation there. That's 15 to 30 minutes or more if you need it, where we can chat about anything that you would like. There's no pressure. If you're just, real estate curious and you want to think about it, by all means, book that one-on-one with me. I'm happy to chat at any point. And it has real-time availability, so you can book through the calendar there. So yeah, don't forget, submit your questions, topics, and comments in the chat. I would love to hear where you are watching from. So if you're in New Orleans or Metairie, Kenner, North Shore, out of state, out of country, wherever it is, I would love to hear from you. Let me know where you're watching from tonight. But let's go ahead and kick things off with the first question I have on hand. And that's the big one. This is the one that I get at every party. I was at my best friend's birthday party on Saturday night, and I always get this question. I got this question multiple times that night. So I'm always happy to dive into it. And that's, what is the New Orleans market actually doing right now? Are we in a buyer's market? Are we in a seller's market? Are we somewhere in between? There's so much going on in the media that it's sort of hard to work through that and clear out all of the confusion. So we're going to look at some data that I have prepared, and we will know exactly based on the real-time data what is going on. So let's go take a look. This is my website, so you can go check that out. Of course, all those resources and all of that are there, including the blog. You can see a lot of cool stuff going on over there. But we're going to break it down. I've talked about this a number of times before, but New Orleans is not just one homogenous market. The greater New Orleans real estate market is absolutely made up of a ton of micro markets. Even within that, the city of New Orleans market is made up of micro markets. But we're going to first take a look at the city of New Orleans. This is a tool that I like to use. It's called Realtors Property Resource, specifically for real estate advisors. But it gives us a good digest of the data. This is as of April 2026. I would not expect this to have changed very much through May, being that we are now at the end of May. So these are pretty reliable numbers. So this shows that the city of New Orleans real estate market is currently teetering into a buyer's market. So being a buyer's market, it means that there are obviously more homes available on the market for sale than there are people ready, willing, and able to purchase them. We're just teetering on the other side into the buyer's market. So it's not hyper one market versus the other. It's not, it's not a terrible case that we're in if you're looking to sell your home. And if you're a buyer, there's no reason to be afraid. But right now we're looking at about 7.5 months of inventory. So what does that mean to have 7.5 months of inventory? Months of inventory is essentially the number that if no more homes were listed on the market starting today, based on the current buyer demand, how long would it take for all of the houses that are currently on the market to be purchased by people who are currently looking? Right now, that's about 7.5. A balanced market is about 6 months. So we can see we're just a little bit on the buyer side of that right now. But for buyers, that means that there is a good deal of potential and opportunity for you in the market. That's things like getting seller paid closing costs. That's getting a lower sale price. You can see in the data point next to it that homes are selling for about 96% of the list price. So let's just call that 95%. If a home is listed initially at, let's just say, $300,000, this is to mean that you can generally expect that home to sell for $285,000, because 5% off of $300,000 is $15,000. Reduce that from the $300,000, and that brings you to $285,000. Really easy, clean number. Now, that's not to say that every single house on the market is going to go for 94% less than the list price. I always tell clients, especially seller clients and even buyer clients, that a well-priced home in a good location, in good condition, will always go quickly. We're seeing, I've run into a couple different multiple offer situations lately. I really haven't dusted off some of that work since we were in the COVID era of the 2% interest rates. But really nice homes that are priced well and presented well, those will still go quickly, and they may actually go over list price. We're looking at about 31 median days on the market. That means on average, a home in the city of New Orleans. Now, remember, that is a large span. That's everything from New Orleans East, Uptown, Lakeview, the West Bank. That is a huge swath of real estate. But right now, the average is about 31 days on the market. We're seeing that number come down pretty significantly. So people are getting more used to the current interest rates. You're getting people who are used to the uncertainty of the market. I'm sure we're all sick and tired of hearing the word uncertainty or unprecedented times, but people are growing accustomed to that. And then across the board in New Orleans, we're looking at a median average sale price of $355,000. And that's coming down a bit. But again, that's a very sensitive number. We do tend to see right now in the market, there's a wide gap. There are properties that are $1 million plus that are selling rather quickly. And then we're also finding that homes $250,000 and below are selling more quickly. So if you're in that kind of standard mid-range. That's probably going to be most home buyers and home sellers in our market. Things are sitting a little bit longer. So if you do have a listing and it's in that mid-range between 300 and let's say $800,000, big range, I know. But if you have a house in there and it's sitting for longer than 31 days, don't panic. It's just the market doing market things right now. That's what we're seeing across the board. So that is the New Orleans area in terms of data. If you have any questions about that, again, reminder, please put that in the chat. You can comment on Facebook, or you can leave that in the chat box on YouTube. That will populate on the screen, and I will be able to answer your question. So if at any point you want some clarification on anything, I am happy to provide it. Now let's pop on over to Metairie. We're going to take a look at Metairie. Metairie has a different picture than the city of New Orleans. I wanted to do Jefferson Parish, but the more that I thought about that, if you think New Orleans is, or Orleans Parish is a geographically large market, Jefferson Parish is even larger. So Jefferson Parish, of course, can go from as far as Kenner. And believe it or not, Grand Isle, Louisiana, floating out there in the Gulf, is also part of Jefferson Parish. So that would be too large a swath to have any, real useful data out of. So let's take a look at the city of Metairie itself. Metairie has a more promising picture for sellers than, say, New Orleans. They're looking at 4 months of inventory compared to the 7.5 months in the city of New Orleans. Homes are selling at about 95% of the list price. That's actually a little bit lower. That number's going up. It's creeping up, but that number's a little bit lower than it is in the city of New Orleans. Median days on the market, 23. Homes are moving more quickly in Metairie. That is not too terribly surprising. Working in there, I just listed a home today in Metairie at 1404 Focis. We listed it today. Ton of interest already. People are booking showings. I think more people are comfortable buying in Metairie right now. There's also a stability and lower property taxes that people really find appealing about Jefferson Parish. So those homes are selling a little bit more quickly. And again, this is a number that is super, super close to the city of New Orleans. The median sold price is $353,000. So it is very, very, very close to the New Orleans market there. And it is teetering into a seller's market. That when you see the lower months of inventory and the lower median days on the market, that tends to indicate more of a seller's market. If you're a buyer in a seller's market, what does that mean? You may not have as much leverage when you're writing offers. You may not get as much of a discount on the sale price. You may not be able to get as much in terms of your seller paid closing costs. I'm going to we're going to pop over to Gretna real quick, which is a really interesting one. And then we're going to go over to, we're going to take a look at the questions. I love the questions are coming in. Thanks, guys. And thank you, Rachel Shaw. How do I stay so handsome? A lot of skincare. Nightly and morning skincare. That's the way. And good lighting, new studio lighting. In Gretna, I love to call out Gretna because it's a really cool niche market. Gretna, especially around Old Gretna, has become increasingly popular in recent years. They have about 5 months of inventory. Homes are selling super, super close to the list price. Look at that number, 98.4%, almost 100% to list price. So though homes are sitting for a little bit, about 76 days, that's actually what we see about average right now across the board. They are selling really close. So there's not a lot of inventory over there when someone wants to buy in Gretna because it has become super walkable. They have great municipal services, and they generally have pretty favorable flood insurance. They are being sold really close to list price. And the median sold price about $282,000. Even within the city of Gretna, you do have a huge span. You may have homes that are closer to downtown or Old Gretna that are selling for a major premium, super walkable down there, and homes that are in more up and coming areas that may balance out that median sold price. So that's what we're looking at right now in the New Orleans market. I want to make sure that we cover these questions. So first up, we have what are the top features I'm seeing buyers looking for in New Orleans? Buyers tend to be looking for nice outdoor space. They will also be looking for things that are beneficial to insurance. So, though it may not be the sexiest feature, it may not be a design trend, which in 2 weeks we're going to talk exclusively about design trends. They're going to be looking for things that bring peace of mind. That's updated windows, roofs that are within that have been replaced within the past 7 years. They're going to be looking for homes that are not in or are above the flood elevation. And they're going to be looking for homes that have been updated. So, more up to date plumbing, electrical. If you've got aluminum wiring has been one that we're really running into, especially over in Metairie and Kenner. Aluminum wiring and older wiring systems, insurers are pulling out of insuring. So you want to make sure that your home is updated. We just negotiated for a client before they closed. The entire house was rewired from aluminum wiring to modern copper before we closed. They were willing to do so. They knew that was what it was going to take. When they bought it, insurers were riding on that. But then when they turned around to sell it, we could not find insurance to insure that home. That I would say that those are the big things, the big peace of mind stuff, right? The things that make you say, okay, look, I can make the house my own. I can get creative with it. I can design it to my own taste. However, all of those peace of mind type things, I want to know that that's good to go. If you now that's also to say if you don't have a brand new roof on your house and you are looking to sell, don't worry about it because I just purchased a house in Bayou St. John, and what we negotiated with the seller, it was a much older roof, but for us, the house had been on the market for a little while, and we were able to negotiate a credit of $10,000 that saved cash in our pocket and allowed us to put a new roof on our house to have a more favorable insurance quote when that time came. So make sure you're aware of these things. That's what buyers are looking for. And here's how we can overcome those concerns and not make you be out of pocket at the very front when you're going to list your house. All right. So let's see here. Thank you for your question. And Liz Wallace, which I failed miserably to introduce at the very start of the live stream. If you see Liz Wallace Realtor in the chat, Liz Wallace is a very dear friend of mine. She's also my licensed assistant and an incredible real estate advisor in her own right. So if you see Liz here, she helps run the stream and moderate things and keep you kids in check, running your mouths out there. But please say hello to Liz. Welcome, Liz. We love her. And Liz shared a question. She said, when selling your home, what improvements actually add value before selling? And what updates are not worth spending money on, in my opinion? If you have an outdated kitchen, price your house accordingly. Don't go gut renovate a kitchen because you think that it needs to be modernized. I hate to tell you this, but when a buyer comes into your home, they'll come in and even if you had spent $60,000 gut renovating your kitchen and making, pretty palatable design choices, a buyer may come in and say, well, I wanted the vintage kitchen. Or they could say, oh, I really wish, I was going to change this anyway. So you've kind of burned that money out of the gate already. So I would say not spending your money on major changes. That's going to be things like, obviously the kitchen. People, if there are worthy updates, I would say if you have a super outdated bathroom, bathrooms are a nice place to give some love to a house. They also have a lot of water exposure. So you may see some more wear and tear on bathrooms than other rooms that would be concerning to a buyer. So bathrooms, if I were to rank it, I would renovate a bathroom before I renovated a kitchen before listing my home. And what improvements actually add value when selling your home? I've talked about that a little bit, but it's a lot of those peace of mind things. They may not be the sexiest things you've ever seen, but knowing that the roof will need to be updated, I would say that improvements would be painting. Especially if you have kiddos or pets, painting a coat of paint can go a really long way in freshening up a house. It can take years of scuff marks off the house or off the walls. That's a really easy thing to do. Paint, I would say, caulk around the toilets and the bathtubs and in the shower surrounds. That makes a big difference. But other improvements would be landscaping. Curb appeal is a big part of it. I'm not saying to go in and put water features and make it look like an Italian villa. I mean, if you want, go for it. That's your business. But make the yard look nice. Repaint the front door. Instead of looking at it as, gosh, I'm going to have to fundamentally change what this house is to make a buyer want it, just make what the house is currently look nicer. I think that's kind of the best rule of thumb. Make sure the windows are clean, make sure that things are painted and touched up and placed nice and organized, and make sure that your landscaping looks fresh and nice. So that's what I would recommend putting your money on and in before you list your home. All right. And Jake asks us, have we seen any recent changes, whether positive or negative, with insurance? Flood insurance has stayed pretty much the same as we expected when Flood 2.0 came out in 2022, I think it was. That hasn't changed dramatically in the past few years. But I would say that the insurance market is softening. Now, what does that mean to say that it is softening? I'm not going to say that it is dramatically improving, but I will say that the insurance market is softening. People are getting more favorable insurance quotes. There are more insurance companies now in the Louisiana market, which has driven competition up a little bit, which competition in the insurance market is the homeowner's best friend because that brings your premiums down. I really have to applaud the state of Louisiana. That might be a rare applause I give out, but I have to give the kudos where they're due. That through the fortified roof program, the more roofs that there are that are fortified, that is improving. That's improving the insurance outlook for all of us. A fortified roof, of course, is a roof that is replaced up to a certain standard, that has, additional ties on it. It has a different method of nailing the shingles and sealing everything and all of that. It's its own process. But that is, insurance comes from something called communal risk. Let's take it a little half step back. Insurance comes from something called communal risk, which is to say that, okay, if we've got ABC insurance company, I'm just going to use my block as an example. If my neighbors on one side, we're all using ABC, the idea is that we won't all need a new roof at the exact same time, right? So that's what the insurance company is banking on. When we have a mass loss event, such as Hurricane Ida was, and of course, Hurricane Katrina before that, but when we have a mass loss issue, these insurance companies are having to pay out a huge sum of money at one time. They frequently go out of business when that happens. We saw that a lot after Hurricane Ida. But the idea is that if myself and my neighbor across the street, and all of us get together and we say, guys, we're going to have a pact and we're all going to replace our roofs to the highest standard we can, then an insurance company, ABC Insurance, will come in and look at our block and say, you know what, actually, we can insure that whole block for a little bit less. I do welcome in Claire. Nice to have you here. So that's the idea behind insurance. So as homes have been improved, there is a $10,000 lottery for a fortified roof for Louisiana homeowners that comes open every so often. Pop over to my website, sign up, enter into the contact form and sign up for my newsletter. I always post when they open up the lottery system. They are providing grants of up to $10,000 towards a fortified roof replacement on eligible homes. That's pretty much everybody in Louisiana. It's on primary residences. If you're in a flood zone, like a high risk flood zone, which is sort of like AE, anything essentially except for flood zone X, they will offer you, if you were selected from the lottery system, they will provide $10,000 toward your fortified roof replacement, which has been shockingly successful. It's done super, super well. I also have to give a shout out to the state of Alabama. They really wrote the rule book on this. They have done an incredible fortified roofing program. I would also say some nice changes that we've seen for insurance is that now in both Orleans and Jefferson Parish, you do have to get a building permit for a roof replacement. Before, even a licensed contractor would have to go in. You have to go in and anybody could have done it, but now you have to have a recorded issuance of a permit for your roof to be replaced. Martha Stout, one of my favorite people on the planet. Welcome in. Martha Stout is also a real estate advisor with us at Engel Völkers New Orleans. Check her out. She works also on the North Shore and South Shore, and is an all-around wonderful person. So welcome in. And Martha asks, as a seller, if your house needs some floor work done, is it better to offer a seller credit or specific allowance? We talked a little bit about that for the work that needs to be done. 100%. Everybody has such specific personal tastes that, if you go through and you replace it with gray flooring, God help us all. But if you go through and replace all of the flooring in your house with gray flooring, someone will say, oh my God, I'm going to have to go in and come out of pocket and rip this all up to put the cherry woods I wanted into the house. So absolutely. And be forthright about it. Make sure that your agent is advertising that, hey, we're willing to offer a credit for this flooring. We know that it needs an update. We know that it's carpet, and we know that it has some wear and tear on it. I would even recommend taking it a step further sometimes. If you can have, prior to listing your home, if you go ahead and get quotes for these items, it feels like, and you can have those quotes, attached to your listing at the open houses, ready to provide to buyers. Go ahead and have these quotes and say, hey, we're not just throwing money at the wall, hoping that $10,000 would cover it, or $5,000 or $50,000, like whatever it is. You have real tangible estimates to say, hey, for flooring such as this, we worked with this company and they said it would cost this. So I 100% agree, Martha. I definitely think that offering a seller credit or a specific allowance is almost always the way to go. Now, I will say, if there is a hole in the floor, if the floor is falling apart, if there's an issue with the structural integrity of the floor, let's go ahead and get that fixed. Choose something and put that down on there. Rachel Shaw asks, do I think the interest rates will stay around the same rate into 2027? Of course, fantastic question. If I had the crystal ball, maybe we would be all so very rich together. But I do think that it's going to stay around this. Right now, interest rates are hovering around 6.5%. They had come down quite a while. Let me see how to tread on this lightly. But until the U.S. got involved with the issues in Iran, and that drove interest rates right back up. So I can explain a little bit about why that happened, and then we'll talk about what I see happening with interest rates. So of course, when the Strait of Hormuz closed, that limited the amount of oil that was able to be shipped into the United States. And as we are all feeling at the pump, I just filled up my car on the way here, so I know it very freshly. But that drove oil and gas prices up dramatically, up to 100% in some areas. Now, what does that have to do with interest rates? So interest rates are closely tied to the rate of inflation. So the higher the rate of inflation, the higher interest rates are. We can do a deep dive on this another time. It's very complicated, but in short, the higher the inflation rate is, the higher the interest rates are. It's to slow spending, to cool buyer demand in the market, to drive those common goods and home prices and all that stuff as an attempt to drive it down a little bit. So how did gas cause increased inflationary periods? Well, with the cost of gas going up, that's how every single consumer good is transported. So everything from your, even items at the farmer's market, items at the grocery store, goods that are imported from overseas, suddenly you saw the cost of those goods go up as well. So that's what inflation is essentially. So because of the cost of oil and gas increasing because of the US involvement in Iran, that drove up the interest rates. we were coming down on the interest rates for a good while there. We were teetering right around 6%. I even saw a little toe dip into the fives. But by and large, that's what's causing it. So that's how we ended up here. It looked really promising for a while. Then things came back up, and right now they're hovering around that 6.5%. Yesterday it went down a little bit. Today it went up a little bit. It's just kind of, we talked about uncertainty a little bit before, but that's the song and dance that it's doing right now. I do think that the interest rates will stay around this going into 2027. There isn't, we do have a new chair of the Fed coming in soon, if not already. I need to check the news. Whoa. But we do have a new Fed chair coming in. So we'll see what his policies lay out and see what his perception of interest rates and his philosophies there are. But in general, I do expect it to stay about the same. Yeah. So, and to tie that in, every single client, every single one of my buyer clients, I always say, don't weigh down on the rates. Don't try to play, rate double dutch where you're going to jump into the market at the right moment and it's going to be perfect. It may not ever be perfect for you. So the right time to buy is when you find a house that you love, that makes financial sense for you, and you're in the place to make a move. Those are the three criteria across the board every single time. Do you see a house that you love? Does it make financial sense where things are right now? And are you in a place to make the move? I say that buying a house, the home buying process, is a little bit like a part-time job for the 30 days. Sometimes it might feel like a full-time job, but you need to make sure that you're in the right place, that you've got your ducks in a row, and that it is a sensible time to purchase. I know there's a lot to talk about with interest rates, and no one knows. Liz asks, what's something buyers panic about that usually isn't a big deal when it comes to inspections or an initial property viewing? That's a good question, Liz. Okay. Liz has questions that we didn't work on the questions together beforehand. So kudos to Liz. Thank you. What I like to tell everybody is that the inspection items that may not be a big deal, I treat that the same way as when someone asks me if a neighborhood is safe. Okay. What does that mean? I might sound crazy. I might be a little crazy, but I always tell people that what isn't a big deal for me may not be a big deal for you. What area feels safe to me may not feel safe to you. So a lot of that is about personal experience and personal views and what you're financially comfortable with and what your experiences are. But I would say when it comes to inspections or initial property viewing, probably the number one thing is going to be hairline cracking that is either completely vertical or completely horizontal. Many times, and I'll point it out in walkthroughs with you. I know you might hear cracking. Oh my God, the foundation, everything's crumbling. The house is going to fall apart. Absolutely not necessarily, at least. But what we typically find is that New Orleans has natural settlement. If you see cracks that are completely vertical or cracks that are completely horizontal, that is typically meaning that the house is settling at a similar rate across the board, or it is taking place where two pieces of sheetrock meet. The other thing that we frequently see is people get really concerned about sheetrock tape. It looks like a big crack, but if you're not familiar, sheetrock is essentially two big pieces of board that go like this, and then they have a piece of tape that goes in between them to make it look all smooth and flush and beautiful and all that. But that piece of tape is more porous than the sheetrock itself. It's not as durable of a material. So I say about every 5 years, you will probably have to do some form of spackling or retaping, to different degrees. But I would say don't panic about small hairline vertical and horizontal cracks. We will look further into it. We'll find out what the cause of those things are. We can bring in experts. But if you're walking through a house, if you're in inspections, don't absolutely panic about that. New Orleans is settling. We're on a very large water table. Don't panic too much. So that's the thing that I would say to look out for. Now, what I would sort of tell you to panic on is going to be diagonal cracks. Diagonal cracks mean if you see a crack happening like this, either from, you'll typically see it around a door frame, a windowsill, you'll see it sort of throughout the home in different areas. That means that two sections of the house are settling at different rates. So it's causing a tension in either the plaster or the sheetrock that's causing a diagonal crack. So that is one thing, that I would encourage you to look out for. Let's see here. I've got some other questions loaded up. Grab a little bit of water. And yeah, I'd love to hear tell me what your summer plans are. What you got going on? It doesn't have to be boom, boom, boom real estate all the time. It's nice. Makes for good rewatchability. But let's see here. I do want to talk about the biggest mistakes. We're gonna talk about what are the biggest mistakes that buyers make, and we're gonna talk about what costs sellers the most when they're listing their house. For buyers, I would say that the biggest mistake is not talking to a lender as soon as you get the idea that you want to buy. Obviously, connect with your real estate advisor, your real estate agent, get in touch with them. But I would say that the number one biggest mistake is someone looking online. I know we've seen the SNL skit about how sexy Zillow is after dark, cuddled up on the couch and scrolling Zillow and realtor.com and realtor.com. Hello. People, you will want to view those homes, and you may hear or see that a house is $500,000. Well, I want to know, how much is that per month? I'm the kind of person who lives, in terms of monthly payments. Can I afford that? The biggest mistake that I see buyers make is to not connect with a local lender. That is important. Work with a local lender early on in their process. I even actually recommend doing it before you even talk to your realtor. I mean, I don't think that it's ever too early to come talk to me, but definitely talk to your connect with a lender and get pre-approved before you ever go see the first house. Go explore open houses. It's fun. It could be a hobby of yours. But I do recommend doing that early on so that you know what you can afford and you won't fall in love with a house, run the numbers with your lender, and then have your heart broken. I've seen it happen a number of times. It is really tough to see, and I don't want anyone to experience that. And then on the other side, what is the number one thing sellers do that costs them money? I know we have a couple agents in here on the chat, so I'd love to hear your perspective on this, but mine is simple. It is overpricing your house when you go to market. That is the number one thing that costs a seller money more than anything else, in my humble, experienced opinion. I would say it's overpricing when you go to market. A lot of sellers bought around 2020, 2021 right now because we see people on average move 3, 5, or 7 years. But they are expecting those same prices. Or maybe you saw that and you wanted to see those prices. There is a phrase that some of my clients use, and I love my clients. I love them dearly. We have to talk through this comment that they make. Let's just see what happens. That is a single line that makes me take a deep breath, that gets used a lot, that I have to smile through. But I would say overpricing your house when you initially go to market is the biggest risk, because what happens after that is if you overprice it and people are not, you're not getting the offers, you're not getting the showings, you're not getting the activity, you are running a dangerous risk of having to cut the price and cut the price and cut the price. I call it chasing the market down, where you have to slice it down. And then as that happens, you have more days on the market. People are wondering, well, what's wrong with this house? Or it could be a perfect house. But just because you wanted to throw spaghetti at the wall and see what you could potentially get, you could cost you way more in the beginning. So let's say that we talked about it. I recommended you list your house at 475 and you're like, no, I really want to get that 500. I really want to get that 500. Me too. I want you to get that 500. That'd be awesome. But if I have run the market data and I've run the comparable sales and I've looked at the neighborhood sales and we've looked at market conditions together and all of that, And I recommend to you $475,000. That's because that's what like properties are pulling at that time. And that's what they're actually selling for. Going over that can cause the risk of what I mentioned earlier with longer time on market, chasing the market down, longer days on market, in continued holding costs. That's your monthly mortgage payment, that's your insurance payments, that's your taxes, all of that. The sweet spot with every single listing is the first 2 weeks that you hit the market. That's when you make the biggest splash. That's when you get the most eyes. And that's when you get the most wide eyed, doughy eyed, kind of optimistic views on the house. So definitely make sure that you work together with your advisor. I would love that to be me. But if it's not me, whoever you are working with, make sure you listen to them and make sure that they can show you their work, that this is the data, these are the comparable sales, and make sure that it can all make sense. Dollars and cents. Make sure it can make dollars and cents. All right. Let me check our comments. We're good there right now. This one is one that I have gotten a fair amount recently. And I want to say curses to HGTV, because I do have to answer this question a lot, or there are a lot of misconceptions about what this answer is. So, what's a day in the life of a real estate advisor look like? I know if you are watching HGTV, everybody is going to look like they are grabbing cocktails and they are driving around in their G wagon and bopping around and having a good time and walking in a house, and their client says, we'll take it. And then they show up at the closing table, collect a check, and move on. Well, some of those things are part of it. But I would say that there are no 2 days in this job that look exactly alike. And that's what I love about it. That's the thing that keeps me doing this is it's very different. Every client's different. Every home is different. Every day is different. But for the most part, within a regular day of being a real estate advisor, there's a lot of computer work, a lot of follow-ups, a lot of checking on clients, providing client updates, scheduling showings, scheduling tours, having calls. You are just on your phone and on your computer a whole lot, but that's okay because it is a lot of fun as well. And that's balanced out by also being on the road. You're driving around, going to open houses and broker tours to see what's on the market, and also showing your clients and showing your listings. And then one thing that I really, really love, as is evident by me hosting this live stream, it's about 7:15 Central Time right now, is that I love the media side of things. There's also a big creative side of being a real estate advisor that I enjoy. So I spend quite a lot of my day, and on different days, filming new content, editing videos, editing graphics. We do a lot of that as well. So generally, everybody thinks that you can, be your own boss, which is great. You can be, or you can make your own schedule. You can try your might, but it probably won't come true. But it is a very flexible job. It's very different. You can spend one day at home all day long working on the computer and calling people, and you can have one day where you have covered, I have covered as far as into Lafourche Parish to the North Shore and into like Kenner on the same day. You are really driving. If Martha is still with us, she's the queen of the road. I will tell you that. She lives in Hammond, but she frequently works on the North Shore. She's also on the South Shore a lot. So Martha's day frequently looks differently than mine. Hers is going to involve a lot of driving around, a lot of taking calls in the car, pulling over responsibly when you can to answer emails and text messages and all that. So it's every day is a little bit different. It's fun. It's fast paced, which I like a lot. And as you can tell by me hosting these bi-weekly live streams, the news and the market changes super frequently. So everything that you expect could be one thing one week and completely different the next. So every day is a little bit different, and it's got a mix of everything. You are also some of that. If you go check my Zillow reviews, many of them call me their therapist. So I spend a lot of time Yep, like Martha said, writing offers in parking lots. I recently wrote an offer in the Madisonville Waffle House parking lot in a multiple offer situation. And I tell you what, I cannot wait to celebrate my clients in that Waffle House because we got it and they are closing in June. So, yes, I was writing it on a speaker that I had not taken out of my car in the move to my new house. So, you can be writing offers in a Waffle House parking lot. Why not? Gets the job done. And then Liz asked, is New Orleans a good market for investors? I would say that the investment margins, there are opportunities there, but I would say that the investor margins, preferred margins, have become super decreased. That means that home prices are higher, insurance prices are higher, and rent prices and rent market values have come down. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but Tulane previously required students to live on campus, specifically in the New Orleans market, especially specifically uptown. Tulane students used to live on campus for the first 2 years that they attended Tulane, but Tulane has now required them to live on campus for the first 3 years of being on campus. So that has pulled a lot of students out of typically investor held housing, duplexes and things like that around Tulane University. But that reduced the amount of competition for those rentals, but prices are still high, insurance is still high, but the rental income has softened. So there are special cases, there are unique opportunities for I would say refurbishment. If you are looking to be someone, like I know that Jake has some great commercial listings in the French Quarter. If you were to be wanting to rehab for uh restaurant space, different converting things into condos and stuff like that, somewhat on the larger scale, there is a good bit of opportunity for that. But I would say for the day-to-day investor, you really have to look for the opportunities. They're there, but you do have to look for them. They are less frequent now than they have been, I would say, than a year and a half ago, largely because of Tulane. And I went there, so I can talk smack about it if I want to, right? I pay him every month. All right. And if anybody has any summer plans, let me know. Where you headed? Where you going? I am going to Lake Tahoe in June, which will be very exciting. I have never been to Tahoe proper, so I'll be taking that all in. All right. Let's see. Okay. This is for my sellers out there. Where my sellers at? Um, in the same way that home sellers have been wanting to keep their prices high, and they are holding on to those 2021 home values, buyers are getting a little cocky, and that's okay. They're feeling a little liberated. They hear on the news that it's a buyer's market in certain areas or whatever it is, and they will make very aggressive offers, whether it's brand new on the market, or whether it has sat for a little while, whether you've done price reductions, or whether it's been on the market for a while at the same price. Buyers, I love you, chutzpah, but they may have a tendency to put in a lowball offer. Now, what is a lowball offer? I generally consider anything over 10%, asking more than 10% off of list price, to be a pretty major lowball offer. $300,000 house offering 270. That's getting to be pretty lowball, right? That's 30,000 off. So I tend to see lowball offers as anything that's 90% or less of the list price. Now, for my sellers, how do you handle that without blowing up the deal? Think about this in fishing terms. You've got a buyer on the hook, someone who has expressed that they like the house, that they are very interested in it. But they want to be aggressive about it. The biggest, this is kind of across the board with everything that I do in real estate, is don't be reactionary and don't take it too personally. That is going to be the biggest thing that is going to help you make really clear, level headed, informed decisions in the home buying and selling process, is to not take it personally and to think really clearly. So put yourself in their shoes for a minute. Hey, why would they be doing this? My house, you might have the reaction of, my house is worth so much more than this. I raised my family here. I like this and I like that. And it's like, well, yes, it has an, immense value to you. It has strong market value as well. But how do you respond to that lowball offer without blowing up the deal? You respond level headed. Ask them what their motivations are. Have your agent or your real estate advisor ask them, like, hey, how did you come up with this number? Open lines of communication are super, super important. How did you come up with this number? Is price the thing that is most important to them? Are there other avenues that we could explore to get them into the home in a way that is satisfactory to both parties, that is mutually beneficial to both buyer and seller? I feel that most people, or a lot of people, tend to get a bit combative when it comes to making offers and negotiating, and they take it really personally, really quickly. But if you can just open by asking questions of the other party, hey, how did you end up, how did you land at this number? How did you, what is most important to them? Do they need a longer closing time? Do they need a longer due diligence period? Asking all of those different things, because the offer really contains so much more than just the price. So I would say having a skilled real estate advisor to walk you through that. And then for you personally, I would make sure you try to take as much emotion out of the negotiation as possible. That way you can approach it super level headed and realize that a lowball offer is not someone telling you that they don't like you as a person, and they're not telling you something like F off. That's not the case at all. So that's how we handle lowball offers, and listen to your advisor. And at the end of the day, to a certain extent, market value is what someone is willing to pay for a home. So, just kind of ask yourself that, like, okay, if, the best offer you have sometimes is the one that's in your hand. So it can be a little humbling, and it can not be what we want to hear all the time, but it can be really important. All right, do we have any other questions? I think we've got time for one more. So does anybody have any questions? All right, well, I will pull one from the mix. Okay, what would I tell someone who's thinking about buying or selling but keeps putting it off? I would say that this is going to lean more towards the buyer's side of things, but I would tell you to not put you can put off the purchase, but be informed first. So if you can be doing things while you're quote unquote putting off buying and selling, but to go ahead and, like I mentioned earlier, go ahead and be involved with your lender, your real estate advisor. Be keeping up to date with the market and things that are going on, such as attending these live streams or signing up for my newsletter at richardabearrealtor.com. But those are definitely things that I recommend doing, is going ahead and looking, because you may be ready sooner than you thought. I think there's a lot of fear in the procrastination of actually going through with the home purchase. But working with myself, working with Liz, and working with our trusted lending partners that we tend to recommend, everybody's very welcoming. We're going to hold your hand through the entire process and make sure that you never feel alone. So that's what I would recommend. And that's what I would tell you, is go ahead and get started. Like, dip your toes in a little bit, see what you like, see what you don't like, get informed about your options. And then, I do have a one-on-one buyer class that's about an hour long, that is totally free to join. And as of this month, we have a 100% success rate. So this has been buyers who have sat down, gone through the process with me. We've looked over everything, come into our beautiful new shop on Magazine Street, right by Washington. We sit down, we go through the process, dispel any myths, and offer some reassurance. But of all of the buyer clients, and they were at very different stages of gung-ho-ness, every single person who's attended that is has purchased a home, and we rolled that out in January. So I really recommend it. You can use my contact form to book one of those. We can book it either virtually or in our shop on Magazine Street. Either way, whichever way you'd like to do it, we can do that together. But just go ahead and be informed. And then for sellers, if you are putting off selling your home, I would start the decluttering process yesterday. You have more in your house. Trust me, I just moved a month ago. You have more in your house than you ever knew. So go ahead and think about downsizing. Marie Kondo your place. Find what sparks joy and what doesn't, and save and get rid and donate. That's going to make it feel more approachable when it comes time to actually list your home. A lot of people tend to put off listing their home because they don't want to go through the decluttering or the downsizing or the packing process. If you can do it in sort of digestible bits, slowly over time, you're going to find it a much more approachable and manageable, I would say, chore to do, to go ahead and start your decluttering process. So that, I think, is a good place to end there in terms of the questions. I really, really, really appreciate everyone who joined, who asked questions, who participated. It really means the world to me. These live streams and every bit of educational content or resources I produce will always be 100% free. So please take a moment and give the channel or the video, the live stream, a like. Please subscribe to the channel. Please follow me on Instagram at Richard Hébert Realtor, and over on TikTok at Real Estate New Orleans. And a few things that are coming up. Go ahead and pop over to the YouTube channel here. Today, I posted a brand new style of home walkthrough for my brand new listing at 1404 Focis Street. We will be doing this bi-weekly. So the next Thursday evening live stream will be, that is, I believe, I think it is June 11th. Let's see here. Yes, that's going to be June 11th at 6:30 p.m. And then this Sunday, I'm going to have a special coffee live stream where we're just chatting, we're just hanging out, and I'm going to be editing walkthrough videos and all of that at the same time, so you can see some of the behind the scenes of how the content is made. Dip behind the curtain a little bit and see how it's all done. I'm really excited about that, and thank you so much to Liz for helping us out tonight over in the chat. If you have any questions at all, you can always call or text me on my personal cell. That's 504-617-5184. And you can also check out those resources, view properties, see the different neighborhoods, all that good, juicy stuff over on my website at richardhebertrealtor.com. So I will wish you the very best. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel and you hit that bell, you'll be notified when I go live on Sunday morning. We can have a coffee, talk about the Hacks finale, which is tonight. So I'm bracing myself for that. If you're a Hacks watcher, my heart goes out to you tonight. And as always, I believe in empowerment through education. So thank you for joining and educating yourself tonight. It means the world that you're here. And I look forward to so many more live streams here in the new studio. So I hope you have a beautiful evening. And thank you again for joining us. Thank you so much.